Hi there. Did you miss me? I'm Beth and I had a little holiday from YouTube at the start of this month to totally declutter and decorate my child's bedroom. It's now looking totally different, very grown up, and so much better. In the week before my decorating adventure, I started working on 2 different custom Blythe dolls. One which is for one of my lovely Patreon supporters, and the other, which you'll see today, I'm going to be giving away. To celebrate my channel's 20,000 subscriber milestone, I thought it would be nice to do another custom Petite Blythe giveaway, just like I did back at 10,000 subscribers with my Petite Blythe button. I'll explain more about how this will work through the video, and in addition to giving away the Petite Blythe I'll customize today, I'll also be making a couple of neo or regular sized Blythe outfits, one of which will be up for grabs too. Let's start with the base doll. This is an AliExpress Petite Blythe. They're super small, super cute, and a delight to customize. If you are new to customizing, I wouldn't start with one of these, as the smaller they are, the more difficult they are to customize, honestly. The size of a mouth or a nose at this scale is crazy small. They come completely apart with the removal of just one screw at the back of the head. The eye mechanism works using weights, with the eyes closed when the doll is reclined or sleeping, and open when she's standing. To prepare the head for customizing, and to remove the factory face paint and shiny sealant, I put on a dust mask and sand the head with a fine grit sponge-backed sandpaper. I've got an FAQ page at bethramsden.com with details and links to all of the tools and mediums that I use for customizing, if you'd like some more detail. I'm using a scalpel blade here to cut away any little seam lines for a nicer finish too. Then I can set about using a narrow-tipped metal file, scalpel blade, and tiny drill bits to carefully carve more detail and character into her tiny face. I want her to have a pleasant expression, so I'm giving her a more defined smile. It does end up a touch lopsided in the end, but really it's incredibly hard to get exact symmetry at this scale. I think her lips have turned out really nice though, and once I'm happy with all her features, I move on to sanding away the coloured eyelids from the eye mech, so I can add my own afterwards. I decided to use a little bit of epoxy sculpt to create some more defined eyelids, as there's quite a gap above the existing eyelid on the eye hole, and I always think they look a little lacking. Once the epoxy has cured hard, I gently sand it down smooth, checking that it still fits in the head and works properly. If you've seen me customize a petite before, you'll know I like to add a pair of pull cords to the back of the head to let me open and close the eyes at will. To see the process in full, check out my 10,000 subs giveaway video, which I'll also link in the description below. I first saw this idea over on my good friend Marna's channel, Dolls Rescued, so be sure to check her out. Here I've made the necessary modifications, which include removing the weights and drilling holes in the back of the head. With these 2 new pull cords, I can open and close the eyes. I clean and prep the surface of the head and lids by spraying with some matte Mr. Super Clear UV Cut spray. I look out my usual face-up materials too: watercolour pencils, pan pastels, and soft rounded brushes. This time I start with the backplate artwork, sketching in little magical themed drawings of a mushroom, moon, and star. The reason I've chosen these is because this little petite is going to become a tiny witch. I did some differently themed concept sketches a while back to share with my Patreon supporters, asking them which theme they preferred the most for this giveaway doll. The comments weighed mostly in favour of the witch design, with many commenting on her unusual dress design. The mushroom theme was a fairly close second, so I've just included this artwork as a nod to that. I build up the colour over a few layers and use a fine outliner pen to define the edges where needed. I included my logo and the month she was made. This will be my 27th custom Blythe doll. I didn't do a good job of being in frame here, but I then moved on to blushing and colouring her face. I used tiny, soft brushes to apply the pastel colours and knock off any excess with a large brush. Bit by bit I add more detail, using watercolour pencils to sketch in some eyeliner and a brush to mark where her eyebrows will go, before adding a few tiny hair details with a sharp pencil. I use a pencil again to add some freckle details, and that's about the last details for her. Everything gets a couple more sprays with MSC to secure and protect the colour. I make sure the eyes still fit and work fine before adding a tiny touch of gloss varnish to her lips. I popped the original eyes out earlier and will now make a new set in green to better suit her colouring. I use a circle stencil to find out the size and draw some circles onto white cardboard to draw the new eyes onto. This time I decided to use my Copic alcohol markers for the colouring of the irises, layering different hues of green. The pupils and outer edges are drawn with fine liner pen. I rummaged through my silicone mould hoard for semi-spheres and tried to find a good size match for the domed part of the eyes. Sadly, despite making a few of these, the two smallest sizes I had were either too small or too big to really fit just right. I used a dab of clear UV resin to attach the domes to the bases and tried to file down the sides of the domes until they would fit into the eye mechanism. It was so tiny though, and the surface became too scuffed up to look as good as I wanted it, so I decided to abandon that method. Instead, I simply added a drop of resin directly onto the bases and lightly filed those down to size. They're not as thick as the originals are, but I think they look really good in the end. I always think the petite lashes are way too long and they stop the eye mechanism from working properly, so I trim them down before gluing them carefully back onto the eyelids. While waiting for that to dry, I look out some pretty beads to decorate and weigh down those pull cords with. I end each cord with an antique brass-coloured charm, a leaf and a sickle. A little fray check holds the knots secure. I can now reassemble the doll and show how cute she is so far. Those eyes are so pretty. Now, in line with her concept art, I'm going to try to replicate this outfit and high-low fronted red dress with the whole thing being just 3 inches long. I start with a little witch's hat made from black felt, gathered to bend to one side. Then I draft a long sleeve red bodice, which I hand sew and turn right side out to try on. Then I draft her skirt, starting with this offset circle, which will drape naturally in the front like the drawing. I add in another section to the back, making it more like a 1.25 skirt. I cut the pattern so that the join will be less obvious to one side, and I cut it from a beautifully textured deep red muslin. I pull each piece apart like this, so I'm working with the thinnest possible fabric, hopefully improving how it lays in the end. I create a nice overlapping closure in the back and carefully match the waist of the skirt to the bodice and hand stitch. It really helps to soak and hang up to dry your doll clothes, to have the fabric relax into place and have skirts hang down more naturally. I arrange the skirt how I want it and leave it to dry. I then set about finishing off the hat with a long strip of red netting and a beautiful tiny clasp in the front. I add a couple of tiny antiqued buttons to the bodice front, which I've finished off with a small strip of doll-scaled Velcro to close in the back. I'm also going to add a little sash belt to the dress with another tiny charm on the front. That's not all though. Our tiny witch needs boots and a cauldron accessory. I use thin pleather to make her boot shapes, wrapping them round her legs from behind and blanket stitching them into place. Once secured, I cut 2 teeny weeny sole shapes from red leather and glue them onto the outer edges of the boot soles. Then, for her petite scale cauldron, I simply filled it with these pearly beads, glued into place to mimic the look of bubbles. You'll have to watch to the end to see how all those elements come together though, as I show you the other items I'm giving away. Since it is the season of spooky things and my absolute favourite time of year, I looked into my autumn themed fabrics for something cute to make some dress and apron sets for the standard Neo-sized Blythe dolls. I couldn't pick just one fabric combo, so I actually made 2 dress and apron sets. The clothes set winner will be able to choose their favourite of the 2, and the remaining set will be offered to my patrons first before it goes into my shop at bethramsden.com. Now if you're interested in this giveaway, listen carefully. The winner of the petite doll will be chosen from my Patreon followers. You don't have to be a member of a paid tier to enter. I'll put all the names onto a spinning wheel, and the winner will be chosen at random and contacted via the email address that they've used to join Patreon. The winner of the clothing set will be chosen from amongst the comment section below. You will need to be a subscriber to my channel to be eligible, which is free, of course, so go and hit that button now if you aren't subscribed yet. I want you to write, "Put me in the prize draw," exactly please, anywhere in your comment below, and I'll add you to the wheel of names to be chosen from randomly when it's drawn. All YouTube commenters will have the same chance of winning the clothes set, one entry each. I'll post anywhere worldwide, so please feel free to join my Patreon or comment below wherever you are. I'll pull both prize draws on Thursday the 30th of this month, and we'll post the results in a short video both on Patreon and here on YouTube, so make sure to come back and check. If I don't hear back from either winner with their postal details to receive their prizes after a week, then I'll pull a second winner and post another short video. Okay, I think that's all the details you need. Good luck, everyone. I've put together the dress sets and have given them a little weathering and aging effect by tea-dyeing them too. I think they both look beautiful in the end. I decided to model them on a couple of different Blythe body types. So here's a Kemi with the first set to show how it looks on an A-zone style jointed body from AliExpress. And here's my Lady Panacea with the genuine Blythe body, with less articulation and slightly shorter arms, modelling the second set. And of course, here's our star of the show, the Little Red Witch, with her complete outfit, hat and cauldron. Isn't she adorable? She'll also travel with her little red doll stand so she can be displayed nicely by her lucky new owner. Best of luck to you all. Please leave me a nice comment below and let me know what you thought of this week's project. Don't forget to include the phrase, "Put me in the prize draw" for the clothes set prize draw, and check out my Patreon page linked in the description box below to be in with a chance to win this tiny witch doll. Thank you all so much for watching, and before I go, let's welcome my newest supporters on Patreon, Hannah Howden, Ashley Sanders and Kevin Vanden Eekhout. Thank you all so very much, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!